What's up, everybody? It's me, E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews. Today, I want to explore the question, is it possible that Black Panther could be the best comic book movie ever? I'm going to cover some of the pros and cons, and you can be the judge. Coming up next. If you're coming from my last video where I listed my top 5 MCU movies, I mentioned that I was going to do something rather bold today. I talked about how Black Panther really made me reevaluate what the best MCU movies could really be. Ever since Black Panther came out, I've heard a lot of people say that Black Panther is easily in their top 5 best Marvel movies. Personally, I didn't think that that was a really hard feat to accomplish. However, after watching Black Panther for the second time, I started to appreciate the movie a lot more than before. So that got me to thinking, could Black Panther compete with the other great comic book movies? Better yet, could it actually be the best comic book movie ever? So I decided to think about, what did Black Panther do so well and where did it fall short? And is there anything that could make this the best comic book movie ever? Now, before I start, I want you to think about your favorite comic book movie, like the #1 comic book movie of all time. Whatever it is, keep it locked in your mind. As a matter of fact, let me know in the comments below what your favorite comic book movie is before you saw this video, and then let me know what it is after this video. I'm not really here to change anyone's mind or discredit anyone's personal favorite comic book movie. I'm just here to explore the question of whether Black Panther is actually the best comic book movie ever. If you don't agree, that's totally cool. Don't thumbs down this video. Instead, just let me know why you feel that way in the comments below. And let's keep it respectful. Now, if you do happen to believe that Black Panther is the greatest comic book movie, then give this video a thumbs up, let me know in the comments, and hell, give this video a share too. Okay, let's start off where Black Panther fell short. I'm going to cover what I think are some of the better complaints against the film, regardless of whether I actually agree with them or not. First off, the CGI just didn't cut it. A lot of people voiced their complaints that the CGI in Black Panther simply wasn't good. Now, we're not talking about Justice League level bad here, but it surely wasn't as good as the better CGI we've seen in other Marvel films. The fight scene towards the end of the movie made people think that they were watching a video game or something. Next up was my very own issue, and that was the mirror villain problem. This is what happens time after time in Marvel movies and its villains. They'll get a villain that has very similar, if not the same abilities as the hero, except give them different motivations. It's a tiresome formula that really needs to just stop. It adds very little nuance to the villain, and it minimizes the ability of the hero to rise to a new level. Last thing was that there just wasn't enough action. A lot of people have come to expect more fights and action scenes in these Marvel movies. Black Panther had maybe 4 notable action scenes, but for many people that just wasn't enough. Of course, there are other minor complaints people can list, but I think that the CGI and the lack of action were probably the most consistent ones that I've seen from the majority of people. It didn't bother me as much, but I do think it was fair to bring up. Now I'm going to give you my top 5 positive things that Black Panther did right as a comic book movie. Coming in at number 5, it was genre breaking. One sign of a truly great comic book movie is whether it can break free from the typical comic book movie genre. Captain America 2: Winter Soldier is a perfect example of this. This was an espionage movie that just so happened to have superheroes in it. Well, I would argue that Black Panther also broke the traditional comic book genre as well. It felt like a story of an African ruler who had to deal with the politics of his country and who just so happened to have some super abilities while wearing a panther suit. Comic book movies will either be really action-packed or focused on being a comedy, all in an effort to be really entertaining. Many would say that Captain America Winter Soldier did a hell of a job with the level of action, and I would actually agree with that. I would argue, however, that in the same way Cap 2 excelled in the action department, Black Panther excelled in the drama department. Whether it be T'Challa's confrontation with his father in the spiritual world, or even Killmonger's powerful final words, there are a number of scenes that really drive home the drama in Black Panther, thus making it more than just a typical comic book movie. Unless you want to say that action carries way more weight in a comic book movie, then I don't think we can fault Black Panther too much for not having as much action compared to other films. Coming in at number 4, accurate character adaptation. Obviously, comic book movies are inspired by the comic book source material. The key is whether or not the character can be true to form on the big screen. If we look at the other great comic book characters like Tony Stark, Captain America, or even Logan, those are great examples of the on-screen characters tapping directly into the source material character. I believe T'Challa falls right in line with those previously mentioned characters. One of the most essential aspects of T'Challa's character is his wisdom and leadership. In Black Panther, we get to see him mature before our very eyes into the wise king that he is in the comics. Having this film explore the burden and responsibilities of being a king is exactly what the source material calls for. It's no different than having Batman brood over his parents, or Wolverine dealing with his tortured past. Coming in at number 3, being multi-layered. Just like other great comic book movies, Black Panther is pretty deep. It's incredibly thought-provoking and it practically demands a rewatch. Multiple viewings will have you appreciate what the film sought out to do, and you'll also pick up on more things that you missed the first time around. Like, did you notice that they replaced the word God with Bast, since, they worship the Panther god named Bast? Did you notice how the hero and the villain were not only arguing about the liberation of oppressed black people around the world, but they even took their fight to the Underground Railroad? There are intentional and symbolic references embedded into this movie. And I'm not just talking about Easter eggs. Just like how director Ryan Coogler has described the attire of the actors in the casino scene were to represent the Pan-African flag. Everything from the soundtrack to the fashion to the architecture to even the accents of the characters were done with such a level of care and respect. Coming in at number 2, complex villain. Thanks to the likes of Heath Ledger's amazing performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight, I think we've all come to realize just how significant a good villain can be for a comic book movie. While I won't go as far to say that Killmonger was better than Joker, he certainly aided this film in a number of ways. This movie doesn't make Killmonger a boring, one-dimensional character. We get a deeper sense as to why he's become the person that he did, and on some level, the audience can at least understand, relate, or even sympathize with him. Above all, he raises the stakes and creates a dire situation that the hero must overcome. Even better, Killmonger's motivations may appear just, but his means are clearly villainous. That level of moral ambiguity makes for a much more compelling character. This is what we want villains to do in comic book movies, and Killmonger completely accomplishes that. Okay, coming in at number 1, and this point is probably the one thing that separates Black Panther from all other comic book movies out there, and that is the cultural impact. Black Panther has made an impact on the comic book movie world that is sending a ripple effect of sorts. I think maybe only the Avengers may have had as much pre-hype before the movie came out, just on par with Black Panther. Pre-sale records were getting smashed left and right. The box office continues to climb due to the fact that many people are going back to see Black Panther for the second or even third time. Even non-comic book fans are drawn into seeing this movie. There seems to be more memes about Black Panther floating around social media than for any other single comic book movie to date. Then it gets even deeper. As I've said in my review, Black Panther had the Obama effect. You know how they say you don't know what you're missing until it's gone? Well, the inverse happened here. The black community didn't realize a movie like Black Panther was possible until we saw it. The same way we never thought it'd be possible to have a black president and how meaningful that would be. We never knew how much we lacked a positive superhero that represented the positive qualities of black culture until Black Panther came around. It really meant something to the black community not to be represented on the big screen in chains or as a gangster or in prison or any other negative stereotype. even more so, Black Panther is especially aspiring to the black community. The level of representation for black women is just remarkable. Now, before you go thinking that Black Panther is just for black people, let me stop you right there. The cultural impact that I'm talking about here is significant because it's not exclusionary. Black Panther was able to maintain the integrity of a black perspective on issues that pertain to black culture while not excluding or being confrontational to non-black people. To me, that is a really difficult task to accomplish. It's easy to make a very generalized story that can appeal to everyone. What you see in Logan, Cap 2, Winter Soldier, Iron Man, the Avengers, that's safe. That's easy. I think it's way more difficult for a movie to take on a very specific cultural perspective and not reject anyone from participating. Besides, at the end of the day, is that not what comics are meant to do? Aren't comics supposed to inspire and give us a positive escape? Were they not created to speak to each of us from all aspects of life in some way? I just wanted to point out that this is the exact reason why I phrased the question as being Black Panther being the greatest comic book movie and not just the best superhero movie. Because right now I think that would actually go to the Avengers, but that's another video. Bonus! Yep, that's right. I've got one more point for you all to consider if you think Black Panther could be the best comic book movie ever. Consider this. The majority, if not the best comic book movies, have been sequels, while Black Panther is the first solo film for the character. I'm sure there'll be way more Black Panther sequels, but why does this matter? Because there's usually an advantage when you're doing a sequel. You have the opportunity to look at your previous film and see what went wrong, what went right, and how we can make it better. It took Hugh Jackman's Wolverine like 5 movies before he could finally capture Logan in his best form. Black Panther's solo movie is coming right out of the gate as being in the same conversation with the likes of other great comic films. So for me, that gives it a slight edge. I'll give more credit to the rookie that makes it to the championship game than the veteran who finally made it after they got their bumps and bruises. Well, that's it. What did you all think? Do you think that after further evaluation that maybe, just maybe, Black Panther could be the greatest comic book movie ever? Look, I'll be happy if I at least got you to entertain the idea, honestly. If that happened, then my job is done. But let me know, after hearing all of this, how does your favorite comic book movie hold up against the points that I laid out for Black Panther? What do you think is the greatest comic book movie and why? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I've got more videos for you all coming up, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.